Welcome to that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions you're asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records. Akashic, we laughing, we drafting the passion to vary. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling. Consciousness is always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magicless, passing it. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers? What? All the answers.
Well, we can start with this idea. I was last night laying in bed going like, I don't know how you listen to what I said yesterday before we opened the records and not think I'm just an arrogant asshole. I was like, did I just sound like a total fucking self-important, arrogant douchebag? I feel like I was trying to articulate what I mean by what has happened with this quote unquote completion thing. But I just hope I didn't leave people like thinking I'm claiming, full completion as an evolution of a person.
No, I feel like you made that pretty clear. You're like, I feel good. This is my experience of what just happened to me. I am not, you literally said, I am not ever saying that I am perfect or done. You said that very clearly, like right up front. I wouldn't worry about it.
Then, okay, thank you for that. Then the other thing I got nervous about, by the way, I love it when I have a favorite podcast. I listen to Armchair Expert a lot, and they'll like reference their own. They'll be like, when I said that thing last time, do you think did I sound? And I'm like, I love when they do that. I'm like taking all my cues from Dax Shepard and Monica Padman. You know what's frustrating about them is that I cannot find Monica Padman on Instagram. I want to stalk her and become her friend. I'm sorry, on Twitter and or Instagram. And so you can find Dax Shepard easily, but like, is Dax Shepard going to respond to your message? But then he did. What he responded to was they have an ad that runs on their podcast all the time. They have a bunch of, what are they called? Sponsors, which we should get some of those.
Let's monetize this.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I want to ask you about that, Desmond. But anyway, one of their sponsors is a product called Tushy, which is a affordable bidet.
Like it's a little handheld bidet or something, is it?
No, it's like you attach it to the toilet, but it's like $85 as opposed to like $800, which is like a normal bidet. So they talked about it so many times. And Eric, my boyfriend, has a bidet. And I asked him like, what's the deal with bidets? And he was like, oh, he sat me down and was like, on a bidet. And he pried my butt cheeks apart. And then, that never happened. Didn't happen. But he was like, he sort of sold me on it. He's like, think of it this way. Like if you fell down on the ground, on the pavement out in the world, and you accidentally pushed your hand firmly down into a pile of a large turd, and then you had shit all over your hands, and you had two choices. Take a dry paper towel and wipe it off. or fresh running water that's firmly gonna squirt it off of which one do you choose?
You grab the garden hose and you spray really hard.
I was kind of like, I don't want to use just a dry piece of paper to wipe the fecal matter off my fingertips if I'm in feces with my hand. Anyway, so I went, all right, I'll think about it. So I got one. It's like $85. Why not? I got one. It's amazing. Do you guys have them?
Well, I work occasionally at a large, gigantic, multi-buildinged tech firm in the South Bay that people probably have heard of occasionally. And in their bathrooms, one stall in every bathroom has like insanely high-tech bidet, warm, cold, a blower, air blower to dry you off, to shake off the googly googlies because you're damp. And then and I will spend way too much time in that stall when I am there.
I am a convert. So because I was converted and it was because of Tushy and because I listened to that podcast, I posted on I think it was their Twitter. I said like, thank you at Dax Shepard. I got my Tushy clean. And I put a picture of the bidet there. And I was just like, whatever, I'll just leave it there. He wrote back, yeah, ! Congrats. And I was like, ha, ha. Because I'm stupid obsessed with that podcast.
And did you then reply, listen to my podcast?
I should have. No, I didn't. But then like some weird lady replied. Then it like started a conversation of weirdos. And I was like, I'm not a part of this. I'm not a weirdo. I'm out. I'm a different kind of weirdo. I'm not the weirdo who's like annoying you on Twitter. The lady said something like, I think you're talking about the wrong tushy.com. And I was like, God. Who the fuck are you? No, I'm not.
She's talking about the porn site.
Right. Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Or maybe it's tushy.net and tushy.com is the porn site. And she was like, don't go to that.
She tried to steal my Dax Shepard thunder, and I wasn't
That's not okay.
He's the man. Anyway, how the hell did we get on that? Monica Padman, I can't find her on the goddamn internet, and I want to compliment her every day and tell her today's episode was great for these reasons. But then I'd really be creepy. Would I?
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's all
maybe
about
I'd just be a fan.
Timing. Yeah. I should listen to that podcast. Maybe I will.
It's really fun.
Tell you what, I'll listen to that podcast when you listen to our podcast. Just once.
Okay. All right. I'll listen.
Fair enough.
The truth is, it's just I'm going to judge myself.
That's true. And
when I listen to me talk, I'm going to be like, oh, Ruben, and then I'm going to get in my own way. So I'm trying to just let it exist and not get in its way. That's why I haven't listened. Right. And I trust Desmond and I trust you. And I'm like, let's just let it exist.
I think that's wise, actually. Yeah.
I see your argument. It's both sides make sense to me. Like, probably should listen because you care and because it's our thing that we're doing. But I'm also like, I don't know.
Right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, though. Like, I feel like it's going pretty well. And if you listen, you might be like, all these things have to change now.
That's the thing. I don't want to get anal and weird about it. Since I'm a perfect person now.
You're finished and done.
I'm complete. Yes, Desmond. Desmond has his hand raised.
Yes, I feel obligated to tell our listeners, do not go to tushy.com. I mean, unless you're into that.
But that is the porn site, apparently.
They do show penetration. What you want to go to is hellotushy.com.
You're right.
Hellotushy.com.
You're right. You know what I bet? I bet that the Hello Tushy. Thank you, Desmond. That the hellotushy.com people knew exactly what they were doing when they were like, let's make it a name that people will find porn accidentally. Because, do you know what I mean? Like, it's so provocative that it'll either piss people off or make people excited. Either way, you're like, it's good. Because, you know what I mean?
It's the wrong one, but now I'm connected.
Yeah. Or it's like, porn, oh my God. And then you have an emotional association with hellotushy.com. But it's, I don't know, fucking.
In the early days of the internet, apparently the White House wasn't quick enough to get its places. And so whitehouse.com was like one of, apparently, this is, apocryphal, was one of the most hardcore, like, gonzo, crazy,
really
gnarly porn sites. It had like the worst stuff on it. So people would be like, whitehouse.com, I'm going to join the internet and be involved with oh my God.
Oh boy. Whitehouse.com.
Yeah, they were just being smart. They're like, what's going to get entered? What are people going to... I mean, people were stealing people's... I know a celebrity who someone got their domain name and was like, the worst part was they were like, I just want to hang out with you. Like, you just have to have lunch with me and I'll give it to you. It was like, no, actually charge me $1,000. That's clean. That's
exactly.
Fine.
Exactly.
But they were like, no, you creep. That's ew. So he had to get like blanketyblank.net for a while. And I think he eventually got it. But
that would be really great if your website was actually blanketyblank.net. That'd be funny. This is where I sell teddy bears at blanketyblank.net. It has nothing to do with anything. Or I guess if you sold like gun blanks, like not real bullets.
Yeah.
Or blankets.
Ooh, good. Blankety blank. I had to get CassidyBrown.com. Like, hey, it felt like I was selling myself, but I couldn't come up with a different one because someone had CassidyBrown.com. Because they got married and their names were Cassidy and Brown were their last names.
Oh.
So like they bought the domain name for their wedding website.
That would be like, I mean, so they're already married.
Yeah.
You could email.
Now it's on sale. Now it transferred over to GoDaddy or some shit. And they want to charge $1,000 for me to get it,
$1,000?
I don't know. Some amount that I don't want to pay.
Okay. So Jeffrey Epstein
I hate that you associate that with my website, but that's cool.
It just came to my mind because I finished. Is that true? I watched a bunch of the episodes last night, so much so that I got in a little bit of I think I finished it. Oh yeah, I did finish it, but I was kind of falling asleep at the end. Mm-hmm. It pays off. It pays off in an interesting but upsetting way, as does Unsolved Mysteries pay off in a very different way, because that's just like a series where you're watching a different story each time, which is very, very fun to watch the whole season. But the whole season of, not season, but all the episodes of the Jeffrey Epstein thing is like it, I think it's what I want to say about it. It's remarkable to the degree that the bottom line is this man paid his way through everything he wanted. He just paid. He paid to get out of prison. He paid for a lower prison sentence. He hushed everyone up with money and fear, dominance, control, manipulation. But it was just very simple. He had billions and billions of dollars and was friends with all the famous people. He and Harvey W. were good buds. Anyway, it was just like, wow, that's it, huh? That's the whole story. But then what makes it an excellent story is the twist at the end where the women involved finally sort of go. Really what happens is the Me Too movement happens. Uh-huh. And there's some women sitting at home watching TV going, you know what? Reese Witherspoon just said I can fucking tell the truth. I'm gonna. Mm. And like, you know how we people can get a little like cynical about celebrities being a part of a movement and like, Reese, you're so privileged that blah, blah, blah. Personally, I'm like, yeah, you get up there and talk about it because she's aware of the influence she has over normal people across the land. This woman was in Australia, suffering alone, hiding from Jeffrey Epstein, hiding in Australia. That's how terrified she was of him. And saw TV about the Me Too movement and went, I'm calling people and I'm fucking doing something and this guy's going down, and he did. Which makes me happy about, we can make a difference. We really can. When people get up and say things in public and they have social influence and they do something good, it can work,
Yeah, I think we get very cynical about sometimes like maybe motivation or like, are you doing that just to, but like there's risks also involved with doing it. So like people using their privilege to put themselves on the line in some way, and it's going to be different for different people. I think, what's his name? The guy from that 70s show who grew up to be
Ashton Kutcher.
Ashton Kutcher. Doesn't he
yes.
run? He actually like goes to countries and rescues girls from trafficking or something. Okay,
get this. And I'm so glad. You know how I know this? Because of Armchair Expert.
Of course, because Dax Shepard and Ashton Kutcher have got to be buds.
They're super tight buds. I love that. Like, let's just make this whole episode a promotional episode for Armchair Expert so that they can have 5 billion listeners instead of 4.9 billion listeners. And they
we're going to provide them with 100 million listeners. That is welcome. Awesome.
We have a lot of influence, Cassidy.
I do math. I don't even know if my math is good there, but
I
go
don't
on.
know either. Anyway, they deserve it. It's such a good fucking podcast. So he's had Ashton on a couple times. And the most recent time they talked about his foundation. So Ashton Kutcher becomes famous TV guy, super pretty, and then decides like, I'm going to like do everything else that could contribute to the world and get my hand in every business that exists. So he has like tech companies that he like started and runs. He has like a wine company. They started making wine during the quarantine to support all kinds of charities. He started I wish I could think of it right now. We could Google it maybe, but he started a company that he's like, yeah, our 10-year goal is to completely end sex trafficking in the world. And he doesn't go to the countries himself to save.
I think I was exaggerating.
Yeah, but he's got a full team of people where he's got so much money and so much influence and that's another example of someone doing amazing, wonderful things with their money and influence. He's going around with his team and they're figuring out, okay, how do the structures of this work? Who's holding this up? How is this staying hidden? How do we bring it to the light? How do we liberate these women? Like they're doing so much good work to end sex trafficking across the world because he was like, because I can. Oh,
the organization is called Thorn.
How do you spell it?
THORN, like a rose thorn.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty freaking cool. I always had that idea when I was in my youth. I was like, I'm going to be an actor and then I'm going to be famous and then I'm going to have a lot of money and then I'm going to use my influence to do good. I mean, that was the whole fucking plan. the whole time. But then I was like, ooh, maybe not.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, that first part assumes a lot, Ruben. And like, it's okay. I think people should dream, and I don't ever want people to give up on their dreams. It was just my life took a turn and things are different, and I'm good with it. But I so love when people give a shit and they don't have to. Like, that guy doesn't have to. He could just jet ski for the rest of his fucking life. That's me projecting my fun time on him. But you see what I mean? He doesn't have to fucking do anything. And he's busy. They've got kids and they're married and there's a whole family. He could just deal with that.
Yeah. I don't know how people have bandwidth to do most of what they do. I'm in quarantine working. I mean, I started working again, but like, I'd be like, get to the end of my day. Like, well, I took 2 dumps and made a nice meal. There's no more time.
Yeah. I mean, it is an interesting question. Knowing what I know about human design, like there are people who are meant, there's a thing in human design called being a manifester. 2% of the population is manifestors. And manifestors are people whose organic design is to go out in the world and initiate stuff. But we are programmed in our culture to believe we all should behave that way. Like, get out there and go, right? That's like the American go west and conquer the whatever. When we're functioning correctly for our design, it's only 2% of the population, according to human design, that's actually meant to function that way. So either Ashton Kutcher is a manifester or he's functioning from a lot of programming and conditioning that he used to do good things, which, hey, rock on, right? He might be stressed and exhausted, which would be the purpose of human design, is to help you not live a life where you're drained, where you're feeling correct and aligned and in flow. But if he's not drained and exhausted, I would guess he's probably just a manifester. But I think it's an interesting, I bring that up to say that like, I just have this whole context in my head of how human design works and how some people like just the notion of what is correct for an individual in order for the individual to be living in flow. So I'll give you an example. Like there's something called a generator. There's all these types of person in the human design structure, and generators are 60% of the population. 62% is manifestors. Now, generators are meant to kind of sit back and allow things to come rather than go out and initiate. That doesn't mean like be lazy and stay at home and never do anything, but it means like you're meant to like respond to life rather than like start that business or climb that mountain or get out there in America all over it, you know? So it's a pretty interesting thing to think about when you start looking at your own human design.
What are you?
I'm something called a manifesting generator, which I know doesn't mean what it sounds like. That's the thing about human design. All the terms they have never mean the thing that you think they do. They're like, you're a bunny rabbit. And that means that you slither on the ground and have scales. And you're like, I'm confused.
Do y'all need to work on your nomenclature?
Yeah. Manifesting generators have to wait even longer than the generator. Manifesting generators are supposed to like step way back and take cues from external reality and not push ever. But I'm radically oversimplifying it. Human design is the most specific, elaborate, detailed way to look at the makeup of a person. It's sort of like taking astrology and putting it on MDMA and being like, tell us more, but a lot in many dimensions. It's so complex and wonderful and specific. I actually have my current healing students in one of my healing classes. Their homework is to have their first human design chart reading done. They have to kind of do it outside of class. And we're looking at the way that their human design interrelates with their spiritual practice and how those feed each other. And it makes me think a lot of what your parents do, Cass, in the sense it's a different tack at it, but it's my way of saying, yes, get a spiritual connection, line up to source, but also understand who you are as a person in 3-dimensional reality. Stay grounded. Know that this is probably how you're going to make decisions. This is going to be your relational challenges. Like it's very tailored to the individual about who you are in 3D reality. So I like the blend of that.
Yeah, well, that brings to mind from our last episode about the Buddhist concept of how you actually can develop those things sort of separately, and that's a danger. But yeah, so you can be doing your spiritual stuff, but you've got to also relate it to the
human realm,
the human path, and those things are as valuable. Yeah, I like that.
100%. It's pretty cool.
All right, I'll do it. I'll do mine.
Oh my God, you'll love it. It's very revealing.
Right. We talked about it being kind of, tangentially related to the Enneagram in terms of like the complexity of how things intersect and interrelate and where things come from.
Oh man, you'll like it. The only thing I could see you getting hung up on a little bit is how you get to it.
Yeah, the astrology angle. My little antennae they wilt a little.
I understand. I have a friend who said it, but I really hear you. And a friend of mine said one time, he's like, my wife and I are constantly trying to disprove human design. We're like, it can't be. It can't be. Come on this point too. And then he's like, and every day we fail.
That's interesting.
We fail every day. We can't help it. It's just like always right.
Rami's been listening to Enneagram 2.0, which is a new podcast by Beatrice Chestnut, who's one of the major Enneagram people. And I can't think of the guy's name. They keep talking, Rami keeps saying how that podcast keeps freaking them out. Like, what? No, damn it. Like,
wow.
How did you know? Like, truths get revealed. Yeah, like just digging into the underpinnings and going, well, this is what's going on.
Oh, that's delicious.
I haven't been listening to it, so I need to listen to more of it too. I feel like good time to jump into the records. We were just talking about the idea of manifesting and like what your path is and how you're supposed to engage with the world, right? Through human design.
Yeah.
And I feel like her question might be reflected in that. The question we
Okay,
have.
that's cool. While you're looking at that, I'm sorry. I'm going to pee real quick.
Yeah, you are.
So I am apparently a manifesting generator myself.
Manifesting generator also.
You?
Yeah.
All three of us.
What? I could actually... What? There's a lot to say about that. That's... Wow.
My strategy is to respond.
That's big. So they say the main two things, this is what the human design people say. You should take the first 7 years of looking at human design to only explore 2 things in human design. And there are a billion things in human design. The 2 things you're supposed to spend your first 7 years experimenting with are following your strategy and authority. And your strategy and authority, so yours would be to respond. Cassidy, that's either the strategy or the authority.
That's the strategy, and my inner authority is emotional solar plexus.
Okay, well I'm going to tell you what that is. Do you want to know?
Sure.
By the way, oh God, there's so much to say here. So the emotional authority is, I have it. It's the harder one to have in terms of decision making. What's yours, Desmond, real quick?
Which one?
Your authority.
Sacral
authority, and then you have
strategy is to respond.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. So you two are 2 examples of 2 different things that we can discuss briefly, and then we'll do the obvious thing. The emotional wave works like this. When you have to make a decision, Cassidy, I'll talk about myself. I have the emotional wave. The way they coach you with the emotional wave is someone will say, do you want to go to Disneyland? And you'll get a big yes. You'll be like, fuck yeah, I want to go to fucking Disneyland. A few hours will go by and you'll be like, God, I really actually don't want to go to, it's crowded and the lines are long and I don't want to do that. And then depending on the kind of emotional wave you have, you may go way back up again and way back down again. Or it can be erratic. It can be like up, down, or it can be just one big up, one big down. But eventually what happens for everyone on the emotional wave is you come to what they call the center, where you lean gently in the direction of basically, yeah, or basically, nah, but it's never like a gut instinct, yes, no, right now in the moment. So they say that an emotional processor needs to have a big feeling, whether it's big fat no or big fat yes, sit still, don't do anything, have the opposite of that feeling, and then you'll come to some kind of like, yeah, kinda, or like, nah, not really. But if you choose your answer when you're at the height of your wave or the base of your wave, oftentimes there can be a real feeling of conflict because you're not actually sure yet, but you're being socially pressured to choose
right
before you're ready.
And is the emotional wave that was related to the emotional solar plexus authority?
Yes, where it says emotional.
Yeah, so mine says emotional - solar plexus.
Okay, there's a lot to say about that too, but that's the basic thing about having being quote unquote emotional is it means you're going to have to ride the wave when you're making decisions. And it can be frustrating for other people when they want you to be programmed or conditioned to do things the way that we're all programmed and conditioned to do, which, by the way, is the sacral or sacral response like Desmond has, where a sacral person, you say to it, this is how they suggest for you, Desmond, that you make decisions. Someone else who isn't you should ask you a question. You want to go to Disneyland? And your gut in the moment will either say, uh-huh, or uh-uh. And that's it. That's it. Now, we've got all this stuff in our culture that says, like, that's how men are. And women are emotional. But notice, no, Cassidy has the emotional wave. He happens to be a gentleman man person. It's not at all gendered. It's just what your design is. So it gets really interesting and really specific. And these are just the two tip of the iceberg pieces. This is like, remember I said, like, they want you to look at two things, but there's a billion things. Human design is miraculously complex and specific to you in ways where you'll be like, there's no way they could know that about me. No way.
Cool.
So the is your cue, Desmond. And for you, Cass, you'll ride it until you have another cue they give for the emotional person is anytime a generator, and all three of us are generators, we're just a type of generator called the manifesting generator, is certain, it's conditioning.
Wow.
If you're certain, you've been programmed to believe you're certain. But if you're like, yeah, it's pretty much probably this thing, that's true for you. That's you being correct. But certitude is always coming from the need to prove your worth, your value, your sense of self, which is like one of the main challenges and life processes of the generator, is to learn like you actually have nothing to prove. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, and you never have to be certain, even though the world is going to tell you a million different ways, particularly the patriarchal system we're in. Better be certain if you're going to be a real fill in the blank. CEO, man, actor, business person, husband.
Yeah, that checks out.
I just gotta say that's so perfect. That's definitely the like my highest is yeah, my lowest is nah. So there's not that much. Even if I do change my mind, there's not a lot of whiplash there.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I'm up and I definitely go both directions. I go both ways.
I hear ya.
Hey, yeah.
Okay,
let's do it.
So I have Snobbish full name here. We had some cool stuff go on with her in class the other day, working with her field. So, all right, you have the question?
Yep, I have the exact question right here in front of me. Do you want it now or you want to wait till we're open?
Let's wait till we're open.
Great.
Okay, so let me just see how we want to move. I think we're just going to open her records and not mine and not yours and just open her records and see what happens. Yeah, okay. So I'll just guide us all through the little meditation, just a brief version of it, just to ground us all a little bit for whoever wants that. Yeah, so we'll just take a couple deep breaths into the low belly, closing the eyes, and just letting the body relax into the chair that you're sitting in, and just kind of consciously choosing to enter a kind of receptive state of consciousness, releasing any contracted energies in the body, releasing anywhere that we feel we need to decide, control, know, understand, and just allowing ourselves to receive. Feeling the bottoms of the feet or imagining the bottoms of the feet in contact with the earth. We're going to see little foot chakras opening at the bottom center of each foot, allowing the bottoms of the feet to become planes of energy that connect the electromagnetic field of the body to the electromagnetic field of the planet. Let's visualize some roots. I always like to say 500 roots grow out of the left foot and 500 roots grow out of the right foot down into the earth. Many, many miles down, down, down. It's just an image. It's just an energy. Then we'll send a grounding cord to the center of the earth from the tailbone in our mind's eye. We let that grounding cord be about 1.5 feet wide. It hits the center of the earth. And as it does so instantaneously, spiritual energy from the earth, Sophia Gaia, the soul of this planet that gives us so much, comes up through that grounding cord into our root chakra, splits off into each hip, travels down through each thigh, knee, calf, shin, ankle, and nourishes, feeds into the 500 roots on each side, coming out of each foot, heading down miles into the earth. Just getting a nice little tripod grounding structure in place, spiritually connecting ourselves to the spot we're sitting in. So from here, we'll say, Lords of the Akasha, please fill us with your divine love and assist us in being grounded and present in our bodies as we access divine information and wisdom from you today. Please expand our state of consciousness and move us into alignment with the Akashic realm in a heart-centered state. I ask that the shields of protection be activated to encircle us as we move deeply into the Akashic record of dear Akashic Lords. Please bring the light of my heart present here into this moment so I can consciously connect to the guidance. Lords, masters, and teachers, I ask that you show me what it feels like to be a clear channel. I unfold and open myself to receive divine love, wisdom, and healing on all levels. It's with great joy that I return my heart's awareness to oneness. And I'm just going to go quiet for just a moment. Okay, so I'm going to out loud say a couple of quickies here. So, Lords, masters, and teachers of the records, are her records open? Yes. Okay. So I'm asking that you just kind of expand my energy field a bit more. Allow me to sit as deeply as possible. I see open all my chakras while we're sitting here. 1 through 7, their connection to 8, and all the chakras above my head. Okay, there we go. And we're asking to be deeply connected now. Okay, there we go. Just dropping in, letting her energy field become the thing I'm most presently aware of. Okay. All right. So whenever you're ready, Cass, what was the question she had?
She asks, and I quote, "How do I build a matriarchy, with joy?"
That's it? Wasn't there something about a feminist revolution?
Now, this actual question, this is just literally what she said. My biggest question right now is, how do I build a matriarchy with joy?
Okay. Okay. So the first piece here is showing me the energy of healing. Like there are some energies in your pituitary gland and pineal gland that need a little bit of facilitation. There is a purification process occurring for you currently through the healing work you're doing. Also, frankly, just through being alive and through the conscious up-leveling that humanity is going through right now, you're receiving an upgrade, if you will, or a vibrational raising of frequency of your pituitary and pineal glands. As this occurs, your sense of who you are and what really matters is evolving, deepening, softening, connecting more fully. So a piece of this is timing. You're in a transformational moment, so you can't know yet exactly what to do because you're not done becoming the person who will lead the matriarchal revolution you desire to see. That's number one. Number two is the beginning of this for you is family. How do you build a matriarchy is you be a matriarch and you have people who desire the wisdom you carry. See, a matriarchy, in order for it to function efficiently, must be based on divine feminine wisdom. In other words, people organically follow matriarchs who have wisdom that they desire. If you think about the archetype of the crone or the grandmother, who you come into the field of the grandmother, the wise woman, the therapist, the whatever woman in whatever a position of authority and wisdom carrying that you know. If you think about those women, when you come near them, they embody wisdom and you want what they have. You want their wisdom. So you come to them, right? So you must become the person who, when you be you in the presence of others, people want what you have. So how do you become that person, you individually? Piece number one is exactly what you're doing now, which is to embrace what your understanding through your emotions and your body awareness of what is just and unjust. Embrace your honest, true point of view about what is just and what is unjust. Number two, equally important, perhaps more important, is your own personal growth work, holding space for dissenting points of view. Ruth Bader Ginsburg would be an excellent role model for you, because if you watch the documentary that came out recently and you watch how she interacts with her adversaries, opponents, the men across the aisle, if you watch the way she holds the space of love, while simultaneously the image is like pinning her opponent to the cork board of truth. This is who you need to become Now, for you, beloved, a piece of the work is that you have been silencing your truth for so long. And your sense emotionally of what is correct, what is just, what is fair, what is right. You have been silencing yourself for so long that the level of your anger and frustration right now is understandable to us, the divine beings of light and the divine itself, and anyone who loves you will understand. Of course, you're pissed off. You've been repressing yourself. And your task is to continue to process that anger through your system, continue to express yourself until you have what is known on the spiritual levels as, for lack of a better way, righteous anger. Now, righteous anger means there's a difference between I am personally offended by what is happening to me, and that thing that is happening is not correct. You must become masterful at understanding when you are moving from which. That is not to say that you won't ever employ the anger you have about what is happening to you personally in your social justice work. That is not to say you won't employ your own personal anger in your social justice work, but it is to say this very important piece. If human beings who you're desiring to lead, or if human beings who you're desiring to influence can feel that your energy, the creation of what you're creating, is coming from the energy of personal injury, they won't follow you. But if they can feel in their bodies, because please remember, human beings are psychic sponges. They like to pretend they're not, but everyone is feeling everyone all the time. So if people can feel that you are coming from a centered, spiritually full of love in your heart, caring place for the sake of humanity, that you are coming from a place where your heart is open and soft and you care about people, and that your frustration and anger is coming from unjust behaviors that humanity is committing upon itself for the sake of the people, then they will follow you. And so how do you get to that? You must keep doing your own work. What are you pissed off about, beloved, that happened to you? Who has hurt you, and how have they hurt you? Write it all down. This person fucked me over. This person fucked me over. This person fucked me over. Journal it out until you can get to, there are many tools and techniques for how to get to forgiveness, understanding, compassion, not boy, this is not to say if someone hits you with a brick, or for women, you're raped. Now forgive your rapist and get over yourself in any kind of way like that. But this is to say, until you've looked at and cried through and grieved your own, the trespasses that have been trespassed against you, until you've processed that through your system, the injury to the system will be speaking more loudly than the spiritually aligned awareness you will have once you have processed it through your system. So short answer, keep doing your own personal growth work. Process through everything you're angry about. You need to actively process everything you're angry about from your past, from your parents, all the men, all the women, whatever it is, until you have less charge on those things personally. And then that work in and of itself will wake you up to some new something. It will wake you up to a new moment in your own body where you will have a balanced masculine and feminine dynamic working within you. And from that place, people will want to follow you. When you watch Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the documentary, everyone wants to follow her. How could you not? She's just correct. She's just kind. She's balanced. She has nothing to prove. This would be another good question for you to look at. What do I have to prove here? And who am I trying to prove it to? My dad, my mom. I have value. I'm not a doormat. All of that is for you to process with you and with your team, your therapist, your healer, your 12-step recovery, whatever it is you do to process through your stuff and get to clarity and peace. That's yours to do. Okay, that feels complete over here. Is there anything else you want to say to her there? Is there any other information for her? Is there any other? Nope. she's going to want to know something about the practical, but practically, how do I? And they're like, well, this is what you do. You do this first, and that will arise organically, and you will know what to do. I do see the future, showing me the future of the integrated you who has processed through. You will have you already have a really beautiful heart and a beautiful way of loving people. When your masculine and feminine elements are in balance, yours in particular, the way you love people, beloved, is so empowering to them. They feel wrapped in your arms the way a healthy, holy, integrated, wise woman, crone archetype grandmother, when she wraps you in her arms, you feel seen, heard, held, understood, supported, encouraged. This is who you will be. And from that place, you will just organically be living a matriarchy. You are a walking matriarchy. Once you have done your side of the work. One more piece is it would be of value when you're doing energetic healing to pay attention to the left side of your body and to bring some healing work through the left side of the body. There's a little bit of distortion that the feminine receptivity of your body being soul, spirit, organism has received through your childhood and normal programming and normal conditioning of the culture. So the left side is asking for some empowerment and enlightenment. And once it receives that, it'll make it easier for the right side, the more masculine, the more active, the more directive energy to flow. All right. So record keepers, is there more info? Is there anything else she's going to want to know that we can answer? Not really. All right. Does anything occur to you, Cass? Any questions? Or she's not here, so I can't really ask her, like, how does that land? Or what do you think? Or
well, to my ears, that as is often the case, I feel like we just were given specific and also generally good advice. Advice, not even the right word, guidance, wisdom. So I think that was pretty thorough, actually. I feel like if I got that reading, I'd be like, all right, good, got it, thanks. Shit. It's a little more complicated than I wanted it to be. I wanted a menu with a series of steps, but no, it's also simpler and easier in a weird way.
Yeah, I mean, there is a menu of steps in there. It's just not the one. I hear you. It's not like, now go get a storefront and put a sign on it and it says these words and start a business called Mama's Matriarchy.
That's the build thing. I think we want to say, well, how do I build? I have bricks and I stack them in a wall and now I have built a matriarchy, as opposed to how do I get to be the person who can build a matriarchy is sort of what I think the guidance that was given.
Well, it depends on the individual and where they are in their journey. In other words, if she were ready, she'd be building it. Also, there was a misunderstanding in the sense of, yeah, it won't need to be built. She'll just be being it and it'll come. And she will build things. It's just not today.
Do you know about the Buddhist concept of block, build, be? I just learned this.
No, tell me.
I'm going to get it wrong, but it sort of seems to, there's sort of three phases. It's also related to the work that reconnects, which is the work that my mom does, where they have holding actions. I can't remember the three of them off the top of my head, but there's like ways. So block is like, this is the work we do to stop bad things. Like to engage with, literally, blockades or whatever, we stand in front of the bad thing that's happening.
I'm going to close her records real quick.
Please do.
I'm sorry. I'm just realizing I'm sitting here like with this side of me is and this side of me is me. And I'm like, what are you saying?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying.
No, I want to hear this. I just can't right this second because I'm doing this weird thing over here. So real quick. So Lords, Masters, Teachers, thank you for this guidance and direction. Please return her energy back to herself completely. Energy goes back to herself completely. Please return complete human wholeness. Please return me to my complete human wholeness. Anyone listening, return them to their complete human wholeness if this took anyone out to a spacier place. The divine portal and the Akashic records are now closed. Amen. The divine portal and the Akashic records are now closed. Amen. Return her energy. Return. Me to my human. Okay, that's better. It always takes a moment to like, it's a super high vibe place. So you know what's been happening in my healing class? I open the records for the entire group and I'm doing a healing for like an hour for the whole 12 people in there or however many people it is. And I can't use my eyes during the whole time. And as soon as I close the records, it's like, I blink a few times and then I can see again. It literally like my vision doesn't work. And like people ask me stuff and they're on Zoom and I'm trying to look at them to be like, I'm with you, but I can't because I can't. It's so odd. I don't know what that's about or why that happens, but that's what's happening. Okay, so block,
build,
be. Something.
These are the frameworks describing the essential qualities for true social and spiritual transformation.
Okay.
Block, resisting harm and injustice, which is one aspect that is necessary. Build, cultivating relationships, communities, and new structures. B, contemplative practices for resilience and liberation. So those are three aspects necessary.
Can you read the build again?
Cultivating relationships, communities, and new structures. So that's what she's asking. How do I build new structures? I think.
Yeah. And then B was
contemplative practices for resilience and liberation. So that's the spiritual work. That's the go back in and work yourself. But you've got to have all three of them for true. All of them. So you're saying right now you need to do the B in order to do the build. And I'm not, and the block is, I think, the thing that we are doing that feels frustrating because we feel like we're just holding a wall, but it is also important. It's necessary.
Well, it's kind of, I guess the way I'm hearing it is maybe the block is like, don't be a racist asshole.
Yeah.
To people,
Yeah.
Like just include, all the things, like don't uphold, if we're talking about race, for example, we would be like, don't uphold the systemic racism that exists, like block that shit.
Right.
Then join those groups with other people where you can ask the questions you need to ask and, blah, 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 and do the inner work of, oh, I have some internalized racism. I see. I get it. Let me look at that, which is kind of like everything I've been fucking doing since the last whatevers. Just out of like getting smacked the fuck down myself about the places where I was ignorant and really just not, the more I look at the race thing, it's like, man, I just was not engaging. And I understand now how.
That's its own privilege too. Oh, I could just not engage. I don't do that. I do this.
I mean, it's 100% privilege, but more than that, it's like, I see the way that pattern plays out in my own life. Relationally in general, I can really, it's a habit I have where I can be like, I have to have some uncomfortable conversation with Eric, let's say. And then I'll just pull out and be like, TV, like, or whatever, go to the grocery store. I'm just not engaging. And relationally, it's like, it doesn't work that I re-engage and I'm aware I'm disengaging. So I re-engage, but I have to consciously be like, okay,
I'm going in.
Re-engage, And it's that way with the race conversation. I was privileged to not have to engage, so I fucking wasn't. And somebody posted the other day, a person of color posted, just because I really need to say this, white ladies, she goes, you're not going to donate your way out of this. And I was like, that is something I've been wanting to say to all of us too. But it's so much less powerful coming out of my mouth as a white lady. It was so great to hear her say that because I'm like, we don't get to sit on our comfortable couches and click money, go, and think we're done. It's like, this thing is so...
It's a hydra.
Yes. And it's so deeply embedded in our cells that like, if we don't engage with it directly, we're really not doing it. The it that needs to be done is that like all of our interactions with each other all the time have to have the structure that's under them fully dissolved.
Yeah.
And you can't do that by not engaging with it. Click, here's my money. It's like, oh.
Well, that goes back. I'm going to bring it back. The idea that you've got to also know where your actions are coming from. And we've talked about this before in the past. Like if you're coming from a shitty place, a fucked up place, even your actions themselves will not have the same impact. And so like, gotta do the inner work. You can't just go, I feel guilty about my racism, so I'll just do these 4 things. You got to go back inside and go, where am I actually with this shit? And how do I unearth my shit? And then go back outside and then go back inside and then go back outside. And you just said that you got to know the difference between acting from your own injury and acting from from justice. And they may be connected, and you may sometimes operate from your injury, and that's okay, but know when you're doing it. Operating from your own injury versus from what is right and just is what you said a couple of times. I thought that was great.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if you think about any of the big leaders in social justice of the past that all of us are swayed by, it's not usually someone who's unintegrated about it. In other words, like if you look at, I mean, of course, you've got Hitler and everybody followed his ass. He wasn't integrated. So there goes that theory. But I'm saying if we're following a leader whose platform is based in love and not murdering people, then we follow the people and we worship and adore the people who have a really integrated sense of integrating love with justice. They're together. You know, everybody always says Martin Luther King as the example, and we also understand he had problems of his own and he's not a perfect person. And white people use that example too much, but I'm going to use it again. Because if you look at him, even just his energy when he's speaking publicly, you can feel that he's like, this is not right. And I love humanity.
Right. It's not, this is not right. And I'm angry at anybody. Yeah, like there's an energy of like the Hitlerian or the Trumpian or whatever of like, we're angry. This smaller group of people is angry and needs to fight off everybody else.
Yeah.
Versus this injury is being perpetrated on some people and you all need to help us get it better.
That's, yeah. I think that there's a thing, this is a thing that I've grown into in my old age, where when I was younger, I was so all about freedom and autonomy and self-expression and not being in any structure or any system, that when I was younger, I would have said something like, there's no such thing as something that is objectively not just, because it depends whose eyes you're looking through. But now I have a very different perspective. My perspective now is there are things that are, if you have a healed heart or a functioning heart, spiritual heart, just a heart right here in the center of your chest, you can feel when something is unjust. You just know it's unjust. And there are things that are clearly unjust in three-dimensional reality.
Yeah.
It's not just what Trump is doing to everyone on all levels. It's unjust. Now, then there's things that are coming from hate, where when you're coming from hate and trying to say this isn't right, someone with a healed heart can watch that conversation and go, I feel like you're talking about yourself and you're coming from hate.
Yeah.
Because you're mad and hurt, but you haven't worked through that mad and hurt. So this is all about you. Like, you know, that thing where someone stamps their foot and you go, fucking A, yes. And then there's a different person who stamps their foot and you go, ooh, get away from me. Go do your work.
Yeah, go have your tantrum somewhere else, as opposed to that is not a tantrum. That is righteous rage. That is righteous anger that feels like it's coming from a place that I can identify with. And even if I can't identify with it directly, I can identify with it on a heart level as being true. It's true as opposed to untrue.
And just about the injured self. I mean, I think like one of the things we're hearing complaints about a lot on the ground level about the Black Lives Matter movement is people keep saying, where's the leadership? Who's the leader? We're not quite sure who we're following. Like there's this leader, that leader, this leader, but we don't have a Martin Luther King today. We don't have a Gandhi. We don't have a Mother Teresa. We don't have anyone. And I know that, okay, I'm going to say two opposing things at the same time. I like what Trevor Noah said in his video. You know, he, as a Black man from Africa, he was like, what makes anybody think there's a correct way to protest? There's no correct way to be angry. Like, be angry however you're fucking angry. People are protesting because they're fucking angry and they need a place to be angry. And there's no place for them to be angry. So on the level of self-expression and the need for people to be exactly where they are, I'm like, God, that's so right on. On the level of who are we going to listen to as a leader in that movement, I feel like we're all waiting for someone who has a balanced, an open-hearted, forgiving, loving energy combined with a righteous anger at the injustice of what has occurred. And the people naturally follow organic leaders. People just follow leaders. They're just leaders. People just follow them. A dictator is someone who says, you will follow me now. A leader is someone who you organically go like, I'm following Ruth Bader Ginsburg right now because she's a badass motherfucker.
Right. I'm following Ocasio-Cortez because she feels like she's potentially that, you know, because she will fucking bring the fire and you feel like she's totally there with knowledge and love too, having lived as a person with other people.
That's right. Again, let me be clear. When I'm saying people are saying there's no leadership, it's not that there's no leaders doing nothing. There are plenty of people doing a lot in the movement for consciousness to wake up about race and for the structures to fall apart. It's just that there's a lot of the culture looking for like, who's the main person we can trust here? Who can we always return to as a moral compass on how to fucking proceed?
Someone with the unified field theory that is like, oh, there it is. That's bringing it all together. And we may not have that. That's asking a lot of a very complicated, absolutely horrifyingly unintegrated, totally
out of balance,
and also like I said, a hydra or a centipede with a million legs that are going into different routes and all different places. It's terrifying.
I'm actually kind of wondering, as I say that out loud, if perhaps there's an element of like, given the way humanity is evolving right now, that consciousness itself has evolved since the days of, for example, the civil rights movement, that maybe we don't function that way anymore. Maybe it's not about there's one leader anymore. Maybe that structure is falling apart. And maybe what it is it's just everyone on the ground with their 10 people around them doing it different, breaking the structure apart like that. Like maybe it's not, you know what I mean? Maybe we're not even meant to look up at some leader outside.
From what I understand about anarchism, that is sort of the concept. It's not anarchy. Anarchy is not chaos. Anarchy is very organized, decentralized. Mutual aid is one of the primary concepts of anarchy or anarchism, as I understand it. And so a little bit of what I know, and not a whole lot, is that's the idea. It's like, it's not that we're not organized. We are organized as shit, and we have deep structures, but we are all running them. We're running them, especially in smaller localities. We're running them in cooperation with each other. So you don't have, maybe that's why Biden is winning, because he's not the big bomb leader. He's the, cool, we'll try and get things right,
I think it seems like Biden's winning because people were like, anyone else.
Right. But why did someone with a stronger, Warren or why did someone with a stronger sense of like, I'm the leader and I have a vision that is well spoken out, that those didn't work this time?
Maybe we're afraid of alphas right now.
Right. We're afraid of someone really with a strong sense. We're like, how about someone who we can manipulate?
Yeah.
Who we can kind of go, let's do this and let's do this and let's do this.
What do you guys think about the idea that like some people are putting forth saying that people are like, that guy has Alzheimer's. That guy has early onset Alzheimer's and like he's going to get.
Well, we didn't care about that with Trump.
Trump's a sociopath. That's different from Alzheimer's.
I also think he has early onset dementia. So many of the things, if you watch the angles of dissent between his language 20 years ago and how he uses words now, they are different. He can't use words like he used to be able to. He can't find words. He can't. Anyway, that's a whole other subject.
Well, that's also what happens when you do a lot of cocaine.
Oh, interesting. So yeah, maybe it's not dementia. Maybe it's just
he's a drug addict, or like a ex-drug addict, or like a
sniffing all over the place. He sniffs all the time. Creepy. Anyway,
he does a lot of coke. Everybody fucking knows it. He just does. It's just like, God, it just hits me sometimes. Like, this happened for real. He's for real happening all the time.
Well, I think we should wrap it up here, even though we didn't really come to any conclusions. That's my sense. I'm hungry.
Conclusions? What are we concluding on?
I don't know.
No, there's no conclusions.
I don't know. I just feel like we could open up a whole other hour of conversation about that.
Yeah. Well, good talk, everybody. Good talk. Thanks for being here.
Do your work.
Oh, I like it.
What are you asking for? All of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
That was a Sounds Awesome production.